When Judge Harrison Mitchell saw Michael Jordan walk into his Chicago courtroom without a lawyer, he couldn't stop laughing. The famous basketball star had decided to defend himself in a $25 million lawsuit that could destroy his restaurant empire. As reporters scribbled notes and expensive lawyers smirked, the judge made jokes about Jordan trying to slam dunk his way through the law. But Jordan had a secret. For 3 months, he'd been studying law at night, preparing for this moment, like it was the NBA Finals. What happened next would shock everyone in that courtroom and change the American legal system forever. The wooden gavel struck hard against the judge's bench, sending a sharp crack through the federal courtroom in downtown Chicago. Michael Jordan stood tall at the defendant's table, his 6'6" frame draped in a perfectly tailored navy suit. The morning sun streamed through the high windows, catching the gleam of his championship rings. "Order in the court," Judge Harrison Mitchell announced, adjusting his black robe. The 65-year-old judge peered over his glasses at Jordan with barely concealed amusement. "Mr. Jordan, am I to understand that you intend to represent yourself in this matter?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jordan replied, his voice steady and confident. Ripple of whispers spread through the packed courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks, while cameras clicked from the media section. Judge Mitchell's lips curled into a condescending smile. "Mr. Jordan," the judge said, leaning forward, "this is a $25 million trademark dispute, not a basketball game. Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed without legal counsel?" Before Jordan could respond, laughter erupted. From the plaintiff's table, Marcus Shelton, the CEO of Wilson Foods Corporation, nudged his team of high-powered attorneys. Their expensive suits and smug expressions said everything. They thought this would be the easiest case of their careers. "Your Honor," Jordan said, unfazed by the mockery, "I understand the gravity of this situation. I'm prepared to proceed." Judge Mitchell actually chuckled, shaking his head. "Well, it's your funeral, Mr. Jordan. Let the record show that the defendant has chosen to represent himself." He paused, then added with obvious sarcasm, "Perhaps you can slam dunk your way through trademark law." The courtroom erupted in laughter. Even the court stenographer had to stifle a giggle. Jordan remained composed, his famous, competitive fire burning behind his eyes, though no one could see it yet. 3 months earlier, Jordan had been blindsided by the lawsuit. His successful restaurant chain, Flight 23, had grown from one location in Charlotte to 15 across the country. Each restaurant featured basketball memorabilia, gourmet dining, and Jordan's personal touch in every detail. Then came the certified letter claiming he had stolen the concept from Wilson Foods' Air Grill restaurants. The allegations were serious. Wilson Foods claimed Jordan had accessed confidential business plans, copied their menu concepts, and even stolen their architectural designs. They demanded $25 million and wanted all Flight 23 locations shut down immediately. Jordan's initial legal team had urged him to settle, suggesting the negative publicity alone could damage his brand beyond repair. But something didn't sit right with him. Jordan had built his entire career on fighting battles everyone said he couldn't win. Back in the courtroom, Judge Mitchell gestured to the plaintiff's lead attorney, Richard Blackwell. "Mr. Blackwell, please present your opening statement." Blackwell stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced precision. "Thank you, Your Honor. We will prove beyond any doubt that Michael Jordan deliberately and maliciously stole proprietary information from Wilson Foods Corporation. We have documents, emails, and witness testimony that will demonstrate how Mr. Jordan accessed our confidential files and used them to create his Flight 23 restaurants." As Blackwell continued his polished presentation, Jordan sat quietly, taking notes on a legal pad. What no one knew, not the judge, not the opposing lawyers, not even the reporters hanging on every word, was that Jordan had spent the last 3 months preparing for this moment with the same intensity he once reserved for NBA championships, late nights studying trademark law, secret meetings with a retired judge, countless hours reviewing similar cases. Jordan had approached this legal battle like he approached everything else in life, with an obsession to win. "Your witness," Judge Mitchell said to Jordan after Blackwell finished, still wearing that patronizing smile. Jordan stood, straightened his tie, and walked to the center of the courtroom, the same walk he'd made to center court countless times before. The room fell silent. "Your Honor," Jordan began, "I'd like to request a brief recess to review some documents before we proceed." Judge Mitchell sighed dramatically. "Mr. Jordan, this is precisely why defendants need proper legal representation." "Very well. 15-minute recess." As the judge banged his gavel, Jordan returned to his table. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Evidence that would soon wipe the smirk off everyone's faces. But not yet. Like any great competitor, Jordan knew timing was everything. The game had just begun, and Michael Jordan was about to show everyone why you should never underestimate a champion. The 15-minute recess felt like halftime in a crucial playoff game. Jordan sat alone at the defendant's table, surrounded by stacks of documents, while the courtroom buzzed with excited chatter. Through the large windows, he could see news vans lining Madison Street, their satellite dishes pointed skyward. His phone vibrated. A text from his son Marcus. "Dad, we're here, right behind you." Jordan turned slightly. There in the third row sat his family. His mother Dolores, wearing her Sunday best and clutching her purse like she always did when nervous. His children Marcus and Jasmine, both trying to look brave, and his brothers Larry and James, who had flown in from North Carolina. Their presence reminded Jordan of what was truly at stake. This wasn't just about money or restaurants. It was about legacy, about the empire he'd built after basketball, about proving he could succeed beyond the court. Flight 23 had started as a dream during his final season with the Chicago Bulls. He'd always said, "I want people to experience excellence in everything I do." The first restaurant opened in Charlotte in 2010, featuring hardwood floors that mimicked basketball courts, walls lined with memorabilia from his career, and a menu crafted by world-class chefs. Now, 15 locations later, Flight 23 employed over 2,000 people. Each restaurant sponsored local youth basketball programs and provided scholarships to underprivileged students. If he lost this case, it would all disappear. The employees would lose their jobs, the community programs would shut down, and his reputation as a businessman would be destroyed. "All rise," the bailiff announced as Judge Mitchell returned to the bench. "Mr. Jordan," the judge said, settling into his chair. "Are you ready to proceed?" "Yes, Your Honor." Across the aisle, Marcus Shelton whispered something to his lawyers, then smirked. The 55-year-old CEO of Wilson Foods had built his fortune through aggressive tactics and hostile takeovers. His air grill chain had struggled to compete with Flight 23, losing market share in every city where both operated. Shelton's lead attorney, Richard Blackwell, called their first witness, Jennifer Martinez, Wilson Foods' former director of strategic planning. "Ms. Martinez," Blackwell began, "please tell the court about the confidential documents that were stolen from your office." Martinez, a nervous woman in her 40s, fidgeted with her glasses. "In March of 2019, I noticed several files missing from my computer. They contained detailed plans for Air Grill's expansion, including architectural designs, menu concepts, and marketing strategies. And what happened next? 6 months later, Flight 23 announced new locations in the exact same cities we had planned to enter. Their restaurants had similar layouts, comparable menu items, and almost identical marketing campaigns. The jury leaned forward, clearly intrigued. Judge Mitchell nodded approvingly at Blackwell. "Your witness, Mr. Jordan," the judge said, a hint of amusement still in his voice. Jordan stood and approached the witness stand. He moved with the same fluid grace that had once made him the most feared player in basketball. "Ms. Martinez," Jordan began, "you mentioned files went missing in March 2019. Did you report this to the police?" "Well, no, Did you file an internal report with your IT department?" "Not exactly. So, there's no official record of these files being stolen?" Martinez glanced nervously at Shelton. "Mr. Shelton said he would handle it internally." Jordan paused, letting her words hang in the air. The courtroom grew quiet. "Ms. Martinez, is it true that you were fired from Wilson Foods in April 2019? "Objection!" Blackwell shouted, jumping to his feet. "Relevance!" Judge Mitchell considered for a moment. "I'll allow it. Answer the question, Ms. Martinez." "Yes," she admitted quietly. "And isn't it also true that you were fired for sharing confidential information with a competitor?" Martinez's face flushed red. "That was never proven." Jordan returned to his table and picked up a document. "Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence Employee Termination Form 447B from Wilson Foods, dated April 15, 2019. As Jordan read the termination details aloud, the mood in the courtroom shifted. Shelton's confident smirk began to fade. Judge Mitchell leaned forward, his dismissive attitude replaced by genuine interest. Jordan wasn't finished. He pulled out another folder containing financial records that showed Flight 23's expansion plans had been in development since 2017. 2 years before the alleged theft. "Ms. Martinez," Jordan continued, "are you aware that Flight 23 filed trademark applications for these locations in 2017? I didn't know that." The revelation sent whispers through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously. Jordan's family sat straighter, hope lighting their faces. As the morning session concluded, one thing became clear. Michael Jordan hadn't walked into this courtroom unprepared. He had studied, planned, and strategized just like he had for every significant challenge in his life. Outside, the Chicago wind whipped through the city streets. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, but inside the courthouse, a different kind of storm was brewing. The basketball legend was about to prove that his competitive genius extended far beyond the hardwood. The stakes couldn't be higher, and Jordan was just getting started. 3 months earlier, Michael Jordan sat in his home office in Charlotte, staring at the lawsuit papers. The grandfather clock ticked steadily in the corner, a gift from his father before he passed away. Next to it hung his favorite photo, him holding the NBA championship trophy, tears streaming down his face. That was the moment he proved everyone wrong who said he couldn't win without help. Now, facing another seemingly impossible challenge, Jordan made a decision that would shock everyone. He picked up his phone and called Judge Arthur Davidson, a retired federal judge who had become a friend after Jordan donated to his youth legal education program. "Arthur, I need your help," Jordan said. "But what I'm about to ask you has to stay between us." 2 days later, Jordan enrolled in night classes at Charlotte School of Law under the name Michael Jeffrey. He wore thick-rimmed glasses and a baseball cap, blending in with students half his age, while his classmates thought he was just another older student changing careers. Jordan absorbed every lesson with the same intensity he once studied game film. His schedule was grueling. During the day, he managed his business empire and met with his original legal team, pretending to follow their advice to settle. At night, he studied trademark law, civil procedure, and evidence rules. He hired a private tutor, Professor Sarah Chen, who specialized in intellectual property law. "Mr. Jordan," Professor Chen said during one of their sessions, "you need to understand that trademark cases often hinge on who can prove first use in commerce." "Like being first to the basket?" Jordan asked. "Exactly. Whoever can prove they had the idea first usually wins." That's when Jordan remembered something crucial. Back in 1998, during the Bulls' final championship run, he had sketched out ideas for a restaurant chain. Those sketches were still in his personal vault, along with every significant document from his career. Jordan spent weeks building his case, like he once built his basketball skills, through relentless preparation. He studied similar trademark disputes, including the famous Apple Core versus Apple Computer case. He learned about metadata analysis, document authentication, and cross-examination techniques. One night, while reviewing Wilson Foods' public filings, Jordan noticed something odd. The company's expansion plans, supposedly stolen from them, contained architectural elements that matched buildings constructed in the 1990s. Buildings that housed the original Flight 23 test kitchen in Chicago. They're not just lying about the theft, Jordan realized. They stole from me first. He hired a private investigator, former FBI agent Robert Walsh, to dig deeper. Walsh uncovered a pattern of corporate espionage by Wilson Foods, including settlements from 3 other restaurant chains they had targeted similarly. Judge Davidson mentored Jordan through mock trials in his private library. "Michael, the key to winning isn't just knowing the law. It's knowing how to tell your story. The jury needs to see the truth, not just hear it." Jordan practiced his opening statements, his cross-examinations, his objections. He learned to cite cases from memory, to spot inconsistencies in testimony, to build a narrative that would resonate with the jury. The weekend before the trial, Jordan's longtime friend and former teammate, Scottie Pippen, visited him. They sat on Jordan's back porch, watching the sunset over the Charlotte skyline. "Mike, are you sure about this?" Pippen asked. "You could lose everything." Jordan smiled, that familiar competitive gleam in his eye. "Scottie, remember the '98 finals? Everyone said we were too old, too tired. They said Utah had us figured out." "Yeah, and you dropped 45 on them in Game 6. "This is my Game 6, Jordan said. "They think I'm just a basketball player playing lawyer. They have no idea what's coming." Votre night before the trial, Jordan reviewed his evidence one final time. He had original sketches from 1998 showing his restaurant concept. Certifies. Trademark applications predating Wilson Foods' claims. Email evidence of Wilson Foods' hacking attempts. Financial records proving Flight 23's independent development. Testimony from a former Wilson Foods employee ready to expose their scheme, but Jordan's greatest weapon wasn't the evidence. It was his preparation. Like those countless hours in empty gyms perfecting his fadeaway jumper, Jordan had transformed himself into something his opponents never expected: a formidable legal mind. As dawn broke over Charlotte, Jordan put on his best suit, packed his briefcase, and headed to the airport. He thought about his father's words. "Never let them see you sweat, son. Make them wonder what you know that they don't." His phone buzzed with a text from Judge Davidson. "Remember, Michael, the courtroom is just another arena. You've conquered every arena you've ever entered." Jordan smiled. He boarded his private jet to Chicago, carrying folders full of evidence and 3 months of secret preparation. As the plane took off, he looked out the window at the sunrise. The city of Chicago awaited, and with it, the most important game of his post-basketball life. Little did Judge Mitchell, Marcus Shelton, and the entire Wilson Foods legal team know they were about to face not just Michael Jordan, the basketball legend, but Michael Jordan, the legal strategist. The same competitive fire that drove him to 6 NBA championships now burned for justice. The flight attendant approached. "Mr. Jordan, we'll be landing in Chicago in 90 minutes. Can I get you anything?" "Just water," Jordan replied, then opened his briefcase to review his notes one more time. In 90 minutes, the surprise would begin. The federal courthouse in Chicago hummed with anticipation as day one of Jordan versus Wilson Foods officially began. News helicopters circled overhead, while hundreds of spectators lined up outside, hoping to witness history. Inside courtroom 2306, every seat was filled. Jordan sat alone at the defendant's table, his briefcase closed, his legal pad ready. Across the aisle, Marcus Shelton's team of 6 lawyers shuffled papers and whispered strategies. The contrast was stark. One man against an army. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Harrison Mitchell entered, his black robe flowing behind him. "Be seated," Judge Mitchell said, settling into his chair. "Mr. Blackwell, you may call your next witness." Richard Blackwell stood, adjusting his gold cufflinks. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Thomas Chen, Chief Financial Officer of Wilson Foods Corporation." Chen, a thin man in his 50s, took the stand. He carried a thick folder of financial documents. "Mr. Chen," Blackwell began, "please tell the court about the financial impact Flight 23 has had on Air Grill restaurants." Chen opened his folder. "Since Flight 23 began expanding into our markets, Air Grill has lost approximately $40 million in revenue. Their restaurants appear in locations we had secretly planned to develop, using concepts strikingly similar to our confidential proposals. Can you provide specific examples?" "Certainly. In Miami, Flight 23 opened within 2 blocks of our planned location. Their menu featured 12 items identical to our test kitchen creations. In Dallas, they replicated our signature open kitchen design." Blackwell displayed photographs of both restaurants' interiors on the courtroom screens. The similarities seemed undeniable. Several jury members nodded, apparently convinced. "No further questions, Your Honor." Judge Mitchell turned to Jordan. "Your witness, Mr. Jordan." Jordan rose slowly, picked up a manila folder, and approached the witness stand. The courtroom fell silent. "Mr. Chen," Jordan began, his voice calm and measured, "you mentioned test kitchen creations. When were these items developed?" "Between 2018 and 2019, Jordan pulled out a document. "I'm holding the menu from Flight 23's soft opening in Charlotte, dated September 2016. Would you please read item number 7? Chen squinted at the paper. "Bourbon-glazed salmon with sweet potato mash." "And isn't that one of the supposedly stolen items you just mentioned?" Chen shifted uncomfortably. "Well, yes, but how could Flight 23 steal a recipe in 2018 that they were already serving in 2016? "Objection!" Blackwell shouted. "Counsel is testifying." "Withdrawn," Jordan said smoothly. "Mr. Chen, are you familiar with the concept of parallel development in the restaurant industry?" Yes. Isn't it true that many restaurants independently develop similar dishes based on food trends?" "Sometimes, yes." Jordan returned to his table and retrieved another document. "Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence Exhibit D14, a Food and Wine magazine article from 2015 featuring bourbon-glazed salmon recipes from 5 different chefs." Judge Mitchell leaned forward, examining the document with newfound interest. "Mr. Chen," Jordan continued, You testified that Flight 23 opened within 2 blocks of your planned Miami location. When did Wilson Foods sign the lease for that property? We hadn't actually signed yet. We were in negotiations. So Flight 23 didn't take your location. They simply chose a spot in the same neighborhood? Well, yes, but... And isn't it true that this neighborhood, Brickell, is Miami's primary financial district with limited available commercial space? Chen nodded reluctantly. Jordan wasn't finished. He pulled out architectural blueprints. These are the plans for Flight 23's open kitchen design, filed with the Charlotte Building Department in 2015. Mr. Chen, what year did Air Grill develop their open kitchen concept? Chen consulted his notes. 2017. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Mitchell's eyebrows rose slightly. So, Flight 23's design predates yours by 2 years? It appears so, Chen admitted. Jordan pressed on, methodically dismantling each claim. He produced receipts, permits, and trademark filings, each one predating Wilson Foods' supposed innovations. With every question, Jordan displayed an understanding of business law that stunned the courtroom. During the afternoon session, Blackwell called their star witness, David Morrison, Wilson Foods' Director of Information Technology. Mr. Morrison, Blackwell said, please tell the court about the security breach you discovered. Morrison, a young man with glasses, spoke confidently. In April 2019, our systems detected unauthorized access to our servers. The IP address traced back to a computer in Charlotte, North Carolina, the headquarters of Flight 23. What files were accessed? Confidential expansion plans, marketing strategies, and financial projections. The jury leaned forward. This seemed like damaging evidence. When Jordan cross-examined, he asked only one question. Mr. Morrison, did you personally conduct the IP trace? No, we hired an outside firm. No further questions. Judge Mitchell looked puzzled. Mr. Jordan, you don't wish to challenge this evidence? Not at this time, Your Honor. As the day drew to a close, the mood in the courtroom had shifted. Jordan's performance had exceeded everyone's expectations. He moved like a seasoned attorney, citing cases, raising objections, and systematically dismantling the plaintiff's arguments. During the final recess, Jordan overheard Shelton berating his lawyers in the hallway. How is he doing this? He supposed to be out of his element. Back in the courtroom, Judge Mitchell addressed both parties. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mr. Jordan, I must say you've surprised the court today. Thank you, Your Honor, Jordan replied with a slight smile. As people filed out, reporters rushed to catch Jordan for comments. He politely declined, walking past them with the same focus he once showed leaving NBA arenas. That evening, in his hotel suite overlooking Lake Michigan, Jordan reviewed his notes for day 2. His phone buzzed with messages of support from around the world. Charles Barkley had texted, "Mike, you're schooling them like it's 1993 all over again." Jordan smiled, but remained focused. Tomorrow would bring bigger challenges. The plaintiff still had strong witnesses, including their technology expert, who would testify about the alleged hacking. What no one knew was that Jordan had saved his most powerful evidence for later. Like in basketball, he understood the importance of pacing, of letting your opponent think they're still in the game before delivering the knockout blow. As Chicago's skyline glittered in the darkness, Jordan picked up his phone and made one call. "Mr. Walsh, it's time. Bring our witness to Chicago." The first round had gone to Jordan, but the real game was just beginning. Day 2 began with a cold Chicago rain beating against the courthouse windows. Jordan arrived early, carrying a new briefcase and wearing the same determined expression that once terrified NBA defenders. Today, he would expose the cracks in Wilson Foods' case. "Your Honor," Blackwell announced, "the plaintiff calls Dr. Emily Foster, our digital forensics expert." Dr. Foster, a distinguished woman with silver hair, took the stand. Her credentials were impressive. MIT graduate, former NSA consultant, author of 3 books on cybersecurity. "Dr. Foster," Blackwell began, "you examined the evidence of unauthorized access to Wilson Foods' servers. What did you find?" "The breach occurred on April 3, 2019, at 2:17 a.m. The hacker accessed confidential files for exactly 47 minutes. The IP address originated from Charlotte, North Carolina, specifically from a business complex where Flight 23 maintains offices. She displayed complex technical diagrams on the courtroom screens. The jury looked impressed by the scientific presentation. Your expert opinion? Was this a deliberate act of corporate espionage? Absolutely. The hacker used sophisticated tools to bypass our security measures. Thank you, Dr. Foster. Your witness. Jordan approached the witness stand, carrying a laptop and several folders. Dr. Foster, you mentioned the breach occurred at 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time? That's correct. And you're certain about this timestamp? Yes. Our servers automatically log all access attempts. Jordan opened his laptop. Your Honor, I'd like to present Defense Exhibit F-22, security footage from Flight 23 headquarters on April 3, 2019. The courtroom screens displayed grainy security camera footage showing an empty office building, time-stamped for the exact time of the alleged breach. Dr. Foster, as you can see, Flight 23's offices were empty at 2:17 a.m. No one was present to conduct this alleged hacking. Dr. Foster frowned. The breach could have been conducted remotely. Of course, Jordan agreed. But wouldn't that require an internet connection? Yes. Jordan produced another document. This is the Internet service log from Flight 23's provider. It shows that on April 3, 2019, there was a citywide outage in that business district from 1:45 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. No internet. Access was possible. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Judge Mitchell leaned forward. Dr. Foster, if Flight 23 had no internet access, how could they have hacked Wilson Foods? Well, they must have used a different connection. Jordan pulled out a thick folder. I have here sworn affidavits from every internet service provider in Charlotte. None of them show any connection from Flight 23's offices during that time frame. Blackwell jumped up. Objection! We haven't had time to verify these documents. Your Honor, Jordan responded calmly, these are public records available to anyone who requests them. Overruled, Judge Mitchell said. Continue, Mr. Jordan. Jordan turned back to Dr. Foster. Isn't it true that IP addresses can be spoofed? Made to appear as if they're coming from somewhere else? Yes, that's possible. And wouldn't someone attempting corporate espionage likely use such techniques to frame another company? Dr. Foster hesitated. It's possible. Jordan returned to his table and retrieved a manila envelope. Dr. Foster, are you familiar with the Stuxnet virus? Yes, it was a sophisticated cyber weapon. And what technique did Stuxnet use to hide its origin? IP spoofing, among other methods. So the same technique could have been used here to make it appear the breach came from Charlotte? Theoretically, yes. Jordan wasn't finished. He pulled out a technical report. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Defense Exhibit F-23, an independent analysis of the server logs by Cybersecure International. Judge Mitchell reviewed the document. I'll allow it. Jordan handed a copy to Dr. Foster. Please read the highlighted section on page 4. Dr. Foster read aloud. Analysis indicates the breach originated from an IP address associated with a known vulnerability in the Tor network, commonly used to mask true locations. The revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Shelton whispered furiously to his lawyers, "Dr. Foster, does this report suggest the hacker's true location was masked?" "It appears so. And according to page 7, where did the breach actually originate?" Dr. Foster's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Prague, Czech Republic." Jordan let the answer hang in the air before continuing. "One final question, Dr. Foster. Are you aware that Wilson Foods outsources some of its IT work to a company in Prague?" I wasn't aware of that." No further questions. As Dr. Foster left the stand, visibly shaken, Judge Mitchell called for a recess. The transformation in the courtroom was remarkable. The jury members who had seemed convinced by the prosecution now looked skeptical. Reporters typed furiously on their phones, sending updates about Jordan's stunning cross-examination. During the break, Jordan's son Marcus approached him. "Dad, how did you know about the Prague connection?" Jordan smiled. "Remember what I always told you about basketball? The game is won in preparation. I had our investigator check every overseas contractor Wilson Foods ever used." When court resumed, Blackwell tried to recover by calling their financial analyst to testify about Flight 23's suspicious growth patterns. But Jordan was ready, producing market research reports showing that Flight 23's expansion followed natural demographic trends and consumer demand. By day's end, Jordan had systematically dismantled the prosecution's technical evidence. He proved the hacking couldn't have originated from Flight 23 and suggested Wilson Foods might have staged the breach themselves. As court adjourned, Judge Mitchell addressed Jordan directly. "Mr. Jordan, the court is impressed by your handling of technical evidence today." "Thank you, Your Honor." Walking out of the courthouse, Jordan ignored the clamoring reporters. He had one more day to prepare for tomorrow's session, where he would begin presenting his own case. The hunter was about to become the hunted, and Marcus Shelton had no idea what was coming. That evening, in his hotel suite on the 40th floor of the Chicago Hilton, Jordan spread documents across the dining table. Through the windows, the city lights sparkled like championship rings. His phone buzzed. It was Robert Walsh, his private investigator. "Mike, our witness just landed at O'Hare. She's nervous, but ready." "Thanks, Robert. Bring her to the hotel. Conference room at 7 a.m. We need to prepare her thoroughly." Jordan hung up and returned to his evidence. Tomorrow, he would reveal Wilson Foods' deception, piece by piece. He picked up a folder marked Metadata Analysis and smiled. Sometimes the smallest details revealed the biggest lies. The next morning, Jordan met with Sarah Chen, a former Wilson Foods employee who had contacted his investigator weeks ago. She clutched a flash drive containing explosive evidence. "Ms. Chen, are you certain about testifying?" Jordan asked gently. "Once you take that stand, there's no going back." She nodded firmly. "Mr. Jordan, I watched them destroy 3 other restaurant chains using the same tactics. I can't stay silent anymore." Court reconvened at 9 a.m. sharp. The atmosphere had changed. Word had spread about Jordan's performance, and the courtroom was packed with legal observers curious to see what would happen next. "Your Honor," Jordan announced, "the defense calls Kevin Martinez, IT security consultant." Martinez, a young man in a neat suit, took the stand. Jordan had hired him to analyze the digital evidence independently. "Mr. Martinez," Jordan began, "you examined the electronic files that Wilson Foods claims were stolen. What did you discover?" "Every digital file contains metadata, hidden information about when it was created, modified, and by whom. I found something unusual in Wilson Foods' documents. Please explain. Martinez pulled up a technical display. These files, supposedly created in 2018, show creation dates from 2020. Someone backdated them. The courtroom erupted. Judge Mitchell banged his gavel. Order! How is this possible? Jordan asked. Simple. Someone created these documents after the lawsuit was filed, then manipulated the timestamps to make them appear older. But they forgot that Microsoft Office embeds multiple timestamp layers. The deeper metadata reveals the truth. Jordan presented document after document, each showing the same pattern. Files that Wilson Foods claimed were stolen in 2019 hadn't existed until 2020. Shelton's face turned red. His lawyers frantically whispered among themselves. Your Honor, Jordan continued, I'd like to call my next witness, Sarah Chen, former Director of Strategic Planning for Wilson Foods. As Chen took the stand, Shelton's expression shifted from anger to fear. Ms. Chen, Jordan began, how long did you work for Wilson Foods? 8 years, until I resigned 6 months ago. Why did you resign? I discovered that Mr. Shelton was orchestrating a scheme to target successful restaurant chains with fraudulent lawsuits. Objection! Blackwell shouted. This is hearsay! Your Honor, Jordan responded. Ms. Chen has direct evidence. I'll allow it, Judge Mitchell ruled. Continue. Chen produced the flash drive. This contains email conversations where Mr. Shelton explicitly discusses fabricating evidence against Flight 23. He called it Operation Takedown. Jordan displayed the emails on the courtroom screens. They showed Shelton instructing his team to create backdated documents, fake security logs, and false testimony. One email read, Jordan's too rich to buy off. We need to destroy his credibility. Make it look like he stole everything. Another stated, the Prague hack worked perfectly. No one will trace it back to our contractors. The jury gasped. Several members shook their heads in disgust. Ms. Chen, Jordan continued, what other evidence do you have? I have recordings of meetings where Mr. Shelton bragged about destroying smaller chains through similar lawsuits. He said, and I quote, sue them into bankruptcy, then buy their assets for pennies. Jordan played the audio recordings. Shelton's voice filled the courtroom, boasting about his schemes. Your witness, Jordan said to Blackwell, who looked defeated. Blackwell attempted to discredit Chen, but she had documentation for everything. Pay stubs, meeting minutes, even security badge records proving she was present during these conversations. During the lunch break, Jordan overheard Shelton screaming at his lawyers in the hallway. How did he get all this? You said Chen signed a non-disclosure agreement. After lunch, Jordan delivered his final blow. Your Honor, I call Marcus Shelton to the stand. Shelton's lawyers objected vigorously, but Judge Mitchell overruled them. Mr. Shelton, take the stand. Shelton walked forward like a man heading to his execution. Mr. Shelton, Jordan began, his voice steady and calm, did you authorize the creation of backdated documents? I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. Did you hire contractors in Prague to hack your own servers? I refuse to answer. Did you orchestrate this entire lawsuit, knowing Flight 23 never stole anything? I refuse to answer. Jordan turned to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shelton's silence speaks volumes. He then presented his final evidence, Flight 23's original business plans from 1998, complete with Jordan's handwritten notes and sketches. The documents were authenticated by 3 independent experts. Your Honor, Jordan concluded, the evidence shows that Wilson Foods, not Flight 23, engaged in corporate espionage. They fabricated evidence, manipulated data, and committed perjury in this courtroom. Judge Mitchell looked stunned. Mr. Jordan, this is extraordinary. The court will take a brief recess to review this evidence. As the judge left, the courtroom buzzed with excitement. Reporters rushed out to file their stories. The headline was already forming. Jordan exposes corporate fraud in stunning courtroom reversal. Jordan sat quietly at his table, surrounded by papers that had just destroyed a multi-million-dollar scheme. His family beamed with pride from the gallery. His mother whispered to Marcus, "That's your father. He never loses when it matters most." The game had turned completely. The hunter had indeed become the hunted, and Marcus Shelton's empire was crumbling before everyone's eyes. But Jordan wasn't celebrating yet. He knew the most important moments were still to come: the verdict and what he would do with his victory. The atmosphere in the courtroom had shifted completely when Judge Mitchell returned from his chambers. His expression had transformed from skeptical amusement to genuine concern. He adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, based on the evidence presented, this court has serious concerns about the plaintiff's conduct. Mr. Jordan, do you have additional witnesses?" "Yes, Your Honor." The defense calls Detective James Rodriguez, Chicago Police Department, Financial Crimes Division. A tall man in a crisp gray suit approached the stand. "Rodriguez had been investigating corporate fraud cases for 20 years. Detective Rodriguez," Jordan began, "you've been following this trial. Have you initiated any investigations based on what you've heard?" "Yes, Mr. Jordan. Yesterday afternoon, we opened a criminal investigation into Wilson Foods Corporation for fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering." The courtroom exploded. Shelton's face drained of color. His lawyers huddled together, whispering frantically. "What prompted this investigation?" Jordan asked. "The evidence presented in this court suggests a pattern of criminal behavior. We've already executed search warrants at Wilson Foods headquarters." "And what did you find?" Rodriguez pulled out his notepad. "Preliminary findings include evidence of at least 7 similar lawsuits against restaurant chains over the past decade. In each case, Wilson Foods used fabricated evidence to force settlements or bankruptcy." Jordan nodded. "Your witness." Blackwell stood up, looking defeated. "No questions, Your Honor." "The defense calls Lisa Thompson," Jordan announced. A middle-aged woman with blonde hair approached the stand. She was the CEO of Harvest Table, a restaurant chain that had been forced into bankruptcy by Wilson Foods 3 years earlier. "Ms. Thompson," Jordan said gently, "please tell the court about your experience with Wilson Foods." Thompson's voice shook as she spoke. "They sued us for trademark infringement, claiming we stole their farm-to-table concept. We had emails proving our concept predated theirs, but mysteriously, our servers were hacked and all evidence disappeared." "What happened to your company?" "We couldn't afford the legal battle. We had to declare bankruptcy. Wilson Foods bought our assets for 10 cents on the dollar. 300 employees lost their jobs." Jordan presented similar testimonies from 2 other restaurant owners. Each told the same story: fabricated evidence, mysterious hacking, forced bankruptcy, and Wilson Foods swooping in to buy the remains. During the afternoon session, Jordan called his final witness, Dr. Marcus Webb, a forensic accountant. "Dr. Webb, you've analyzed Wilson Foods' financial records. What did you discover?" "A clear pattern, Mr. Jordan. Over the past decade, Wilson Foods' growth came not from successful operations, but from acquiring bankrupt competitors. Their own restaurants consistently lost money." Webb displayed charts showing Wilson Foods' true financial picture. Without their predatory lawsuit scheme, they were failing. "So they needed these lawsuits to survive?" Jordan asked. "Exactly. It was their entire business model. As the day progressed, Shelton's lawyers began negotiating with prosecutors in the hallway. By 4 p.m., news broke that the SEC had frozen Wilson Foods' assets pending investigation. Judge Mitchell addressed the court. Given the serious nature of these revelations, I'm considering dismissing this case with prejudice and referring all evidence to federal prosecutors. However, Mr. Jordan, I believe you wish to present a closing argument? Yes, Your Honor. Jordan stood and walked to the center of the courtroom. For a moment, he was silent, gathering his thoughts like he used to before crucial free throws. Your Honor, members of the jury, when I walked into this courtroom, many of you saw a basketball player pretending to be a lawyer. Some even laughed. He paused, making eye contact with Judge Mitchell, who had the grace to look slightly ashamed. But this case was never about my legal skills. It was about truth versus lies, honor versus greed, and justice versus corruption. Wilson Foods didn't just try to steal my restaurants. They tried to steal the dreams of every entrepreneur who dares to compete with them. Jordan's voice grew stronger. They thought they could bully me into submission because they'd done it to others. They thought their army of lawyers and fabricated evidence would overwhelm one man fighting alone. They were wrong, he turned to the jury. In basketball, I learned that preparation beats talent, truth defeats deception, and courage conquers fear. Those same principles apply in this courtroom. Jordan picked up the stack of evidence. These documents don't just prove my innocence. They expose a criminal enterprise that has destroyed lives and businesses for profit. Today, we stop them. His final words rang through the silent courtroom. I ask you to send a message. In America, justice isn't for sale, truth matters, and no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. As Jordan returned to his seat, several jury members wiped away tears. Even hardened court reporters seemed moved. Judge Mitchell spoke solemnly. Mr. Jordan, I owe you an apology. When you chose to represent yourself, I questioned your judgment. I was wrong. You've conducted yourself with skill, integrity, and remarkable legal acumen. This court is impressed. He turned to Shelton's lawyers. Given the evidence presented, I'm dismissing all charges against Mr. Jordan and Flight 23. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. The gavel came down with finality. Case dismissed with prejudice. Pandemonium erupted. Reporters rushed to file their stories. Jordan's family embraced him, tears of joy streaming down their faces. His mother whispered, "Your father would be so proud." Shelton slumped in his chair, surrounded by lawyers already discussing plea deals. Federal marshals waited by the door to escort him for questioning. Outside the courthouse, hundreds of supporters cheered as Jordan emerged. He stood on the courthouse steps, thinking about his next move. The victory was sweet, but he knew it wasn't complete. Sarah Chen approached him. "Mr. Jordan, thank you for believing me." "Thank you for your courage," he replied. "But we're not done yet." Jordan looked at the crowd, the cameras, the Chicago skyline behind him. He had won more than a lawsuit. He had exposed a system of corporate corruption that had hurt countless people. Now he had the power to make real change. As the sun set over Chicago, Jordan began planning his next move. The game wasn't over, it was just beginning. 3 days after the case dismissal, Jordan stood in his Chicago law office, a space he'd secretly rented months ago. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating walls lined with law books and basketball memorabilia. His legal team, now including several prominent attorneys who'd volunteered their services, gathered around a conference table. "All right, team," Jordan said, "we've won the defensive battle. Now we go on offense." Robert Walsh, his investigator, spread files across the table. "We've identified 43 businesses that Wilson Foods targeted over the past 15 years. 17 went bankrupt, 12 were forced to sell, and 14 settled out of court." Jordan studied the list: small family restaurants, regional chains, immigrant-owned businesses, all crushed by Shelton's scheme. "We need to help these people get justice." His lead attorney, Maria Gonzalez, nodded. "We can file a class action lawsuit, but we need the victims to come forward." "They will," Jordan said confidently. "Once they see someone fought back and won, they'll find their courage." That afternoon, Jordan held a press conference at the United Center, where he'd won 6 NBA championships. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Standing at a podium center court, surrounded by championship banners, Jordan addressed hundreds of reporters. "25 years ago, I stood in this arena celebrating victories that brought joy to millions," he began. "Today, I'm here to announce a different kind of championship run, one for justice." He unveiled the Jordan Justice Initiative, a legal fund providing free representation to businesses targeted by corporate predators. No small business should face financial ruin because they can't afford to fight back. The announcement sent shockwaves through the business world. Within hours, Jordan's office received calls from dozens of Wilson Foods victims. The next morning, Jordan visited Rosie's Kitchen, a family restaurant on Chicago's South Side. Rosa Martinez, the 70-year-old owner, had tears in her eyes as she showed him around. "Wilson Foods sued us 5 years ago," she explained. "They claimed we stole their taco recipe. My grandmother created that recipe in Mexico in 1940. "What happened?" Jordan asked. "We couldn't afford lawyers. We had to pay them $200,000 to make the lawsuit go away. We almost lost everything." Jordan placed his hand on her shoulder. "Rosa, we're going to get your money back. With interest." Over the next week, Jordan personally visited 15 affected businesses. Each story strengthened his resolve. He wasn't just fighting for money. He was fighting for the American dream. In federal court, Jordan's team filed a massive class action lawsuit against Wilson Foods, seeking $500 million in damages. They also filed criminal complaints with the Department of Justice. Shelton, out on bail, tried to negotiate. Through his lawyers, he offered Jordan $100 million to drop everything. Jordan's response was simple: "Tell Shelton I don't negotiate with criminals." 2 weeks later, Jordan delivered another groundbreaking legal argument, this time in federal court. He proved that Wilson Foods had violated RICO statutes, laws designed to combat organized crime. "Your Honor," Jordan argued, "Wilson Foods operated exactly like a mafia organization. They used intimidation, fraud, and legal warfare to destroy competitors. The only difference is they wore suits instead of carrying guns." The judge agreed, allowing the RICO charges to proceed. This meant Wilson Foods faced triple damages, potentially $1.5 billion in liability. As the legal battles intensified, Jordan received unexpected support. Other NBA stars, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, pledged millions to the Jordan Justice Initiative. Business leaders across America contributed, inspired by Jordan's stand against corporate bullying. 1 month after his victory, Jordan sat in his office reviewing settlement offers. Wilson Foods, facing criminal charges and massive civil liability, was desperate to end the fight. Maria Gonzalez entered with news. Shelton's board just fired him. They want to settle all claims for $750 million. Jordan considered this. What about criminal charges? The DA says Shelton's looking at 15 years. 3 other executives have already pled guilty. Jordan nodded. Accept the settlement, but with conditions. Every penny goes to the victims. And Wilson Foods must establish a $100 million fund for small business legal defense. That evening, Jordan visited his mother's house. They sat on the back porch, watching fireflies dance in the garden. "Michael," she said, "your father always said you'd change the world. He just thought it would be through basketball." Jordan smiled. "Maybe this was the plan all along, Mom. Basketball taught me how to compete. This taught me how to fight for others." The next day, Judge Mitchell published his promised op-ed in the Chicago Tribune. Titled, "When Champions Become Heroes," it praised Jordan's legal brilliance and moral courage. In 30 years on the bench, Mitchell wrote, "I've never seen such a remarkable transformation." Michael Jordan didn't just win a case, he exposed systemic corruption and created lasting change. He proved that justice, like basketball, requires skill, preparation, and unwavering determination. As Jordan read the article, his phone buzzed. It was the dean of Harvard Law School. "Mr. Jordan, we'd like to offer you an honorary Doctor of Laws degree. Your case will be taught in law schools for generations." Jordan accepted graciously, but his mind was already on the next challenge. Through his office window, he could see Chicago's skyline. Somewhere out there, other businesses needed help. Other bullies needed stopping. He picked up a basketball. From his desk, a gift from Phil Jackson after their 6th championship. Spinning it in his hands, Jordan smiled. The game truly was just beginning. 6 months after the initial trial, Michael Jordan walked into the federal courthouse for the final hearing on the class action settlement. The February morning was crisp and clear, with a light dusting of snow covering the Chicago streets. This time, he wasn't alone. 43 business owners walked beside him, their heads held high. Inside courtroom 1, Judge Patricia Williams presided over the largest corporate fraud settlement in Illinois history. The massive room overflowed with victims, lawyers, and media. Jordan sat at the plaintiff's table, now surrounded by a team of attorneys he personally selected. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Williams, known for her no-nonsense approach to corporate crime, took her seat. "We're here to approve the UGDD final settlement in Martinez et al. v. Wilson Foods Corporation. Mr. Jordan, as lead plaintiff, please present the terms." Jordan stood, adjusting his tie. "Your Honor, the defendants have agreed to pay $750 million in damages, establish a $100 million legal defense fund for small businesses, and implement corporate governance reforms. Additionally, Marcus Shelton and 4 executives have pled guilty to criminal charges. And the distribution plan? Every affected business will receive full compensation plus interest. The average payout is $4.2 million, with some receiving up to $25 million based on proven damages." Judge Williams nodded. "I've reviewed the settlement. It's fair, comprehensive, and serves justice." She turned to the defense table, where Wilson, Foods' new CEO, sat nervously. "Does the defense have any objections?" "No, Your Honor," their lawyer replied. "Wilson Foods accepts full responsibility and commits to these reforms." "Very well." Judge Williams raised her gavel. "The settlement is approved. Court is adjourned." The room erupted in cheers. Business owners hugged each other, many crying tears of relief. Rosa Martinez, the taco restaurant owner, embraced Jordan. "You saved us all," she whispered. Outside, news crews from around the world waited. Jordan stepped to the microphones, flanked by the business owners he'd fought for. "Today isn't about me," he began. "It's about every small business owner who dares to dream. It's about standing up to bullies, no matter how powerful they seem. When we fight together, justice prevails." A reporter shouted, "Mr. Jordan, what's next for you? Will you practice law full-time?" Jordan smiled. "I'm returning to what I love, running my restaurants and mentoring young entrepreneurs. But the Jordan Justice Initiative will continue. We've hired 50 attorneys to help small businesses fight corporate abuse." "Any regrets about representing yourself initially?" "None. Sometimes you have to trust your preparation and instincts. Whether it's basketball or law, the principles are the same. Study hard, stay focused, and never give up." That evening, Jordan hosted a celebration at Flight 23's Chicago flagship restaurant. The room buzzed with energy as business owners, lawyers, and supporters mingled. Even Judge Mitchell attended, shaking Jordan's hand warmly. "Mr. Jordan," Mitchell said, "I owe you more than an apology. You taught this old judge that true justice sometimes comes from unexpected places." Jordan graciously accepted the praise, but his attention was drawn to a young man standing nervously by the door. It was Tommy Chen, Sarah Chen's son, who had just been accepted to law school. "Mr. Jordan," Tommy said, approaching hesitantly, "I wanted to thank you. Seeing you in court inspired me to become a lawyer. I want to help people like you did." Jordan placed his hand on Tommy's shoulder. "That's the real victory, son. Pass it forward." As the party continued, Jordan stepped onto the restaurant's balcony, looking out over the Chicago skyline. His phone buzzed with a message from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. "Congratulations, MJ. You've shown that champions excel in any arena." Marcus joined his father on the balcony. "Dad, you could have settled quietly, avoided all this publicity. Why fight so publicly?" Jordan turned to his son. "Because some battles are bigger than personal victory. When you have the power to create change, you have the responsibility to use it." The next morning, headlines worldwide celebrated the verdict. Jordan scores legal slam dunk. Air Jordan soars in court. From NBA to Justice League. But the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. The American Bar Association announced the creation of the Michael Jordan Award for Legal Courage, to be given annually to lawyers who take extraordinary risks to pursue justice. At his desk later that week, Jordan reviewed the final numbers. The settlement had helped 537 employees get their jobs back, saved 43 businesses from bankruptcy, and established new legal precedents protecting small businesses nationwide. His secretary entered with a package. This just arrived from Harvard Law School. Inside was his honorary doctorate, along with a note from the dean. "Your case is now required study in our corporate law and ethics course. You've shown that justice requires both legal knowledge and moral courage." Jordan placed the diploma next to his NBA championship trophies. Different arenas, same competitive spirit, same dedication to excellence. The verdict was in. Michael Jordan had won his most important championship. 2 weeks after the settlement, Jordan sat in his Charlotte office reviewing expansion plans for Flight 23. His victory had generated unprecedented interest in his restaurants, with franchise applications flooding in from across the globe. But Jordan wasn't focused on profit. He was planning something bigger. Maria Gonzalez entered, carrying a thick folder. "Michael, we've got a situation. Shelton's trying to hide assets before his criminal sentencing." Jordan leaned forward. "Explain." Our forensic accountants discovered he transferred $200 million to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. He's also selling properties through shell companies. Jordan's competitive fire ignited. He's not getting away with this. File an emergency motion to freeze all his assets globally. Already drafted, Maria smiled, sliding the papers across his desk. But there's more. We found evidence linking Shelton to similar schemes in Europe and Asia. Jordan stood, walking, to his window overlooking downtown Charlotte. How many victims? At least 60 more businesses across 12 countries. Jordan turned back, determination in his eyes. Contact the International Chamber of Commerce. We're taking this global. The next morning, Jordan held a video conference with business leaders from London, Tokyo, Paris, and Dubai. Each shared stories of Wilson Foods' predatory tactics in their markets. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan addressed the group. Shelton thought he could escape justice by going international. He was wrong. I propose we create a global alliance to protect small businesses from corporate predators. Within days, the International Small Business Defense Coalition was born, with Jordan as chairman. The organization quickly raised $500 million from corporate sponsors who admired Jordan's stand. Meanwhile, Jordan's legal team uncovered something shocking. Shelton had been planning to flee the country. FBI agents, tipped off by Jordan's investigators, arrested him at a private airfield outside Chicago, just hours before his planned escape to a non-extradition country. The arrest made international headlines. Jordan watched the news coverage from his office, remembering Shelton's arrogant smirk in court months ago. Now Shelton wore handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit. 3 days later, Jordan filed his countersuit, a $100 million defamation and malicious prosecution claim against Shelton. Personally, the lawsuit detailed how Shelton had tried to destroy Jordan's reputation through false accusations and media manipulation. Your Honor, Jordan argued in court, Mr. Shelton didn't just attack my business. He tried to tarnish a legacy I spent decades building. He questioned my integrity, my honor, and my character. The judge agreed, allowing the case to proceed. Shelton, now facing both criminal charges and personal bankruptcy, had no choice but to negotiate. In a dramatic turn, Shelton's own children testified against him. His daughter, Rebecca, a Harvard MBA graduate, revealed how her father had pressured her to participate in his schemes. "I'm ashamed of what my father did," she told the court. "Mr. Jordan showed me that success doesn't require destroying others." The countersuit settled for $80 million, which Jordan immediately donated to business education programs in underserved communities. He also offered Rebecca Shelton a position in his company's ethics compliance department. "Everyone deserves a second chance," Jordan told reporters. She showed courage in standing up to her father. As Wilson Foods stock plummeted, Jordan made another bold move. He assembled a consortium of ethical investors to buy the company at bankruptcy prices. Within months, Wilson Foods was restructured with new leadership and a commitment to fair competition. Jordan appointed Lisa Thompson, the restaurant owner Wilson Foods had bankrupted, as the new CEO. Who better to lead than someone who understands the damage corporate bullying can cause, he explained. The transformation was remarkable. Under Thompson's leadership, Wilson Foods became a model corporate citizen, partnering with small businesses instead of destroying them. At Shelton's sentencing hearing, Jordan delivered a powerful victim impact statement. "Your Honor, Marcus Shelton represents everything wrong with corporate America. Greed over ethics, power over principle, profit over people. But his downfall also represents hope. It shows that no one is above the law, that truth eventually prevails, and that courage can defeat corruption." Shelton received 20 years in federal prison. As guards led him away, he locked eyes with Jordan one final time. The arrogance was gone, replaced by defeat. Outside the courthouse, Jordan announced his final initiative, the Corporate Ethics Institute, a training center for business leaders that would teach ethical practices and corporate responsibility. "We don't just need to punish the bad actors," Jordan explained. "We need to create a new generation of business leaders who understand the true success comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down." 6 months later, Flight 23 opened its 50th location. But the real victory wasn't in the restaurants. It was in the movement Jordan had started. Business schools worldwide now taught his case as an example of ethical leadership. Small business owners had new protections. Corporate predators thought twice before targeting vulnerable companies. In his office, Jordan kept a framed photo from the trial, the moment Judge Mitchell first laughed at him. Below it, he'd written, "They laughed at the beginning. We changed the game by the end." The phone rang. It was the President of the United States inviting Jordan to the White House to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his contributions to business ethics and justice. Jordan accepted graciously, but his mind was already on the next challenge. There were still battles to fight, still underdogs to defend, still justice to pursue. The game, as always, continued. 1 year after the trial that changed everything, Michael Jordan stood on a basketball court, not in an NBA arena, but at the James Jordan Youth Center in Chicago's South Side. Named after his father, the center had been built with funds from the Wilson Foods settlement. Children from the neighborhood dribbled basketballs around him, their laughter echoing off the walls. "Mr. Jordan," a young boy called out, "will you teach us your fadeaway?" Jordan smiled, remembering his own childhood dreams. "First, let me teach you something more important than basketball." He gathered the children around him. "Success isn't about winning trophies or making money. It's about standing up for what's right, even when everyone doubts you." As Jordan coached the kids, his phone buzzed with news alerts. Judge Harrison Mitchell had retired from the bench and accepted a position teaching legal ethics at Northwestern University. In his farewell speech, he cited the Jordan case as the most important lesson of his career. Never judge a book by its cover, or a man by his fame. That afternoon, Jordan visited the newly opened small business legal clinic at the UCSD, University of Chicago Law School, funded entirely by his donations. Students provided free legal services to local entrepreneurs, guided by retired judges and attorneys from the Jordan Justice Initiative. Sarah Chen met him at the entrance. Now the clinic's director, she had become a powerful advocate for corporate accountability. "Michael, we've helped over 200 businesses this year alone. 3 students have already uncovered potential fraud cases." Inside, Jordan met with the students, sharing lessons from his experience. "Law isn't just about knowing statutes and precedents," he told them. "It's about understanding people, seeing patterns, and having the courage to fight for justice." The Wilson Foods headquarters had been transformed. The building now housed the Corporate Ethics Institute, where business leaders from Fortune 500 companies attended mandatory training sessions. Lisa Thompson, thriving as CEO, had turned the company into a model of ethical business practices. "Our profits are up 40%, she reported to Jordan during their monthly meeting. "Turns out, treating people fairly is good for business." Jordan's legal victory had triggered a wave of reform. Congress passed the Small Business Protection Act, making it harder for corporations to file frivolous lawsuits. The SEC created new regulations requiring companies to disclose litigation patterns that might indicate predatory behavior. The Jordan case became required study at Harvard, Yale, and Stanford law schools. Professor Arthur Davidson, Jordan's Secret Mentor published a book titled When Champions Become Lawyers, The Jordan Method, which became a bestseller. But not all changes were institutional. Jordan received thousands of letters from people inspired by his stand. A factory worker in Detroit wrote, "You showed us that regular people can fight back against corporate bullies." A small restaurant owner in Miami shared, "I was ready to give up when they sued me. Then I saw what you did. Now I'm fighting and winning." On a crisp autumn morning, Jordan returned to the Chicago courthouse for the dedication of the Jordan Courtroom for Public Interest Law. Judge Patricia Williams presided over the ceremony. "This courtroom will forever serve those who cannot afford justice," she announced. "It stands as a testament to one man's belief that the law belongs to everyone, not just the powerful." As cameras flashed, Jordan thought about his journey from that first day when Judge Mitchell laughed at him. The mockery had fueled his determination, just as doubters had once motivated him on the basketball court. Marcus, now working at the IW2 Jordan Justice Initiative, approached his father. "Dad, remember what you always said about the last shot?" Jordan nodded. "Make it count. You did more than that. You changed the whole game." That evening, Jordan sat in his home office, surrounded by memorabilia from 2 careers, basketball jerseys next to legal briefs, championship trophies beside his honorary law degree. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "Your father always said you'd change the world." The phone rang. It was the Nobel Committee, informing him that he'd been nominated for the Peace Prize for his work in corporate justice reform. Jordan listened, politely, thanked them, but his mind was elsewhere. Through his window, he could see the youth center's lights glowing in the distance. Tomorrow, he would return to teach more children, not just about basketball, but about courage, justice, and standing up for others. On his desk lay a new case file, a group of immigrant workers being exploited by a multinational corporation. Jordan opened it, making notes in the margins. The game never really ended. It just moved to different courts. As midnight approached, Jordan picked up his father's watch, a gift from his first NBA championship. He wound it carefully, thinking about legacy. His basketball career had inspired millions to dream. His legal battle had inspired them to fight for justice. In the quiet of his office, Michael Jordan smiled. He had won championships in 2 different arenas, but his greatest victory was showing the world that true champions defend those who cannot defend themselves. The final score wasn't measured in points or dollars, but in lives changed, justice served, and hope restored. That was the end of this incredible story about Michael Jordan's journey from the basketball court to the courtroom. I hope you enjoyed this tale of courage, justice, and determination. Where are you listening from today? Please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories that inspire and amaze. We share new content regularly that will keep you entertained and informed. Also, please share this video with your friends and family to spread awareness about standing up for what's right and the power of preparation and perseverance. Together, we can inspire others to fight for justice in their own lives. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.